Brodes Media.
Hey everyone, a few things before we talk about the 76ers versus the Wizards, which I just cannot wait to see this happen on Sunday afternoon. It's going to be absolutely amazing. First, if you're new to the channel, smash that subscribe button and also crush the like button. That means the world to me. All the support is just insanely incredible. 2, every Wednesday I do a hump day giveaway on my Twitter page at Brodes81, pinned to the top of my profile. We're giving away a Ben Simmons City Edition jersey. It's a no-brainer to enter to win. You would be foolish not to. Twitter, at Brodes81. It explains the rules. And, oh, yes, BrodesMedia.com. I just launched that this past week. I do a blog. I write blogs now a couple times a week, and I just uploaded my newest one talking about baseball and how even though the game is, quote, dying, even though I don't really think it is, it's not in the purest form, it's not in the most entertaining form, there are some positives with the game that I love, and I break it down. So if you are interested, BrodesMedia.com, go to the blog section and read my blog. I'm really excited to start implementing some writing into Brodes Media. So thank you all so much, and enjoy the show. What is going on, everyone? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Brodes. I've been waiting for this moment for so damn long. Months I've been waiting for playoff basketball, and we're just a couple days away. By the way, on Sunday, the game's at 1 o'clock. Of course, I'm sure you all know that by now. I will be hosting on 97.5 The Fanatic, the post-game show. That's right, from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock. I will be hosting the playoff post-game show, so you can call in, get my natural reaction. So just so you all understand, the Sports Talk with Brodes version of my post-game podcast will be out Sunday, just later on in the night once I get home. But I can't wait. It's going to be a ton of fun. Make sure you check that out. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing Sixers basketball in general, playoff ball. I don't give a damn that you're playing Bradley Beal and you're playing Russell Westbrook, an 8th seed team. They're not good. They are not going to beat the 76ers. And if you think that there's some skepticism or we should be a little worried, a little concerned because they can get you buckets at will, no. They are not a good team. There's no way in hell they're going to stop the big man. He averages 30 and 10 against this team specifically. Look, you had Bradley Beal have a dominating performance against you. He dropped 60 points. Well, let's go here, okay? He averages 37 points per game against the Sixers. That's 68% true shooting percentage, and they still can't win a damn basketball game. So at what point is it going to be Bradley Beal gives you 80, and then that's how you win? He's going off. He's exploding. He is getting his buckets. He's getting his, and the Wizards still can't do anything. Maybe that's because Alex Len is your best option trying to defend the big man in Philadelphia. What else will they throw at you? Lopez? It's going to be a laughing joke. Now, I heard two mentalities when it comes to how you can defend Joel in this matchup. You either say, go ahead, dude, go get your 40, go get your 50. We'll trade 2s for 3s, and we will kind of allow Joel Embiid just to get his numbers, but Ben won't score from the dunker spot. Tobias won't get the ball in his hands very often. Seth Curry and Danny Green won't put up a lot of three-point shots. So if Joel is going to consistently score, use a lot of his effort by banging down low, going to the free throw line, getting fouled, just using a lot of energy and then attacking him on the defensive side of the floor over and over again, maybe in some pick and roll action to work him to death essentially. Maybe you go with that philosophy. I don't think that's going to work, but there's really only a handful of things that you can try. If you're the Wizards, you can only try certain things. You won't be able to effectively make it happen. You're not going to abuse this team. The Sixers are too talented, and there's a reason why they are the number 1 seed. They are in that position for a reason, because they can work past a little adversity here and there. I'm just looking at, okay, what can the Wizards do? That's option 1. And option 2 is blitz him to death. Okay, every time he gets the ball, as soon as he wants to start establishing his move, go. Swarm him from different spots on the floor to confuse him. Don't even let him time. Don't give him time to settle in. At the end of the day, though, the Sixers are too strong of a team where it's really not going to matter which one you try and do because the Sixers will have a counter. They are unbelievable. So here we go. The season opener, it was a little wonky. It was a little iffy, and there's nothing you can really take from that game and say, well, because that happened in the first game of the season, now in the playoffs, it all is going to resurface. No, each team at this point is by far a different squad, and they play a different game, but they escaped because of the big man. The Sixers did grind it out because of what happened late in the game, late in the fourth quarter, the dominant performance. It was incredible. Beal gives you 60, but Ben wasn't really the defender. It was all on Danny Green. Ben Simmons was more of the roamer, which I think you're going to see that implemented throughout, I do believe. But he was the roamer, and he was looking at Russell Westbrook and making sure that he can't get going. Bradley Beal sure did. And the fact that the Sixers still won the basketball game when their player dropped 60 on the opposing side, it tells you everything about the makeup of this team. But just keep in mind what is going to happen if Danny Green does fall. I've seen periodically throughout this season Danny not have his legs. There's always a stretch for 2 games here. Then he plays well for 5 or 6 games. Then he has 2 games here where he just looks like an older veteran. He just looks like a tired, fatigued player going through a regular season. Maybe that just so happened to fall on that night. And maybe there's something where you have Danny Green on you for a quarter or two, and then at the halftime, here comes Ben Simmons, and now it's a 6'10 body frame, more versatility, and can really put a different version of pressure on you compared to Danny Green, of course. So, and that's no knock on Danny, but Ben Simmons is for the conversation of Defensive Player of the Year for a reason. It's a different switch. It's a different way to attack, and it can be very swarming. It can be very overwhelming for sure. Maybe you start Danny Green at one point on a specific player, then before you know it, boom, here comes the energy-filled Ben Simmons that's going to make it way tougher on you. And then in that other game, Embiid got hurt in the third quarter, I believe it was, but you still won the basketball game. This Wizards team is doomed. Don't be afraid. Don't try and sell me that while they're faster, quicker guards, so Ben Simmons has no business or Ben Simmons is going to struggle, because there are certain guards that can be a little quick to the basket and can show that burst, can show that explosiveness and that first bounce off the dribble that does sometimes cause Ben Simmons issues. But I'm telling you, there's no way that this Wizards team is going to do anything. There's no way that this Wizards team is going to establish any sort of good basketball in this series. They might win one game. One game. You know what's funny? There's always this fear of what happens if the Wizards win game 1. The Sixers in 0-1 won game 1 against the Lakers in the NBA Finals. Last season, the Portland Trail Blazers, who I was informed was actually going to make a run for their money, and they were going to put a lot of pressure on the Lakers, they won game 1, and then what happened? The Lakers won 4 straight. I give the Wizards one game in this series throughout. There'll be one, whether it's maybe game 3. It's not going to be at the Wells Fargo Center. I would be stunned if that's where the Wizards find a way to creep their ugly head in just one time at the Wells Fargo Center with more fans being in the mix, and it's going to be a loud, insane building that's going to be so hard to play in. I did this impression on Coffee with Brodes. I don't know if I'm going to be able to duplicate it the same way, but my point was this. There's nothing better than being in that arena, and you get Matt Cord on the introductions, and you get the Joel the Process Embiid, and the flames go up, and then you get the wiggy, right? You get Future playing wiggy, with the bass going insane. Good luck. Maybe on the road, whether it's game 3, game 4, that's where something a little underwhelming occurs, but ultimately, you're not going to see good basketball from this Wizards team because the Sixers are by far a better talented team, and they are by far the ready to go win a championship type team. They're ready to make their run. This is going to be an epic run, and I'm here for the ride 100%. There are some afraid because the Wizards have a good game in transition. And we all know, for the identity of the Sixers being their defense, they are not very strong in the transition defense area. So if you're going to look at the matchups and the mismatches as a team, one team succeeds with that fast pace up and down motion where the game is flying back and forth while the other team has problems defending in that area. Is that going to be a concern? Not really. Not really. I don't see it being a concern because the overall talent on the roster is significantly better than the opposing team. So just because that playing style works against this team, it doesn't mean that they have the players to do it. And I know individually that Bradley Beal can play and Russell Westbrook can get you numbers. I'm not telling you he can win, but he can get you numbers. There's a reason why they just battled their asses off. They lost to the Boston Celtics and then beat a dysfunctional Pacers team defensively. Really brutal with what went down in that second game for them to win the 8th seed. Like, they're an 8th seed for a reason. Now, they've been on a nice stretch. They won 15 of their last 20, and their defensive rating to start the season off was about 25 in the league, 25th in the league. Since that 20-game stretch that I just alluded to, their defense has been 8th in efficiency throughout. But still, I mean, you're talking about a different type of beast. A 7-game methodical series where you're countering one another each and every game, where the intensity of film and studying and putting lockdown players on your offensive stars, it's different. We just watched Doc Rivers put Ben Simmons on Duncan Robinson instead of Jimmy Butler against the Miami Heat. There's times where you're going up against a team in a regular season and it has zero correlation on what you're going to see. So of these 20 games, if you go back, I promise you there would be a case where like that is so irrelevant and means nothing to facing Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris in this first round of the playoffs. For the fans to chant, "We want Philly" or "We want the 76ers," whatever vomit came out of their mouths, it's part of being a fan. I'm not going to criticize them too hard. You're in the moment. You're feeling yourself. You're feeling your emotions. But goddamn, was that a stupid-ass thing to say. I can't wait to see this Joel Embiid, Russell Westbrook dynamic. They don't like one another. We've seen the old guy flip off Russell Westbrook. We've seen Russell Westbrook way back to Joel Embiid when there was a game that went triple overtime or whatever it was. There is animosity between the two, and that's going to raise this even more. Imagine a special play where Joel Embiid's dribbling the ball behind his back in a face-up game. Maybe he has Russell Westbrook on him in a mismatch, and he just toys with him. Or he goes with a little fake three-point shot, hesitation, jab, step, runs to the paint area and unleashes a monster dunk, and Russell Westbrook gets in the way, and the fans go nuts. It feels like the building is going to blow up with all that excitement, and Joel Embiid looks around, and you get the wicked play, or you get the wicked song because it's a three-point play, and he brings the house down. He brings the house down. Good luck. Good luck, Russell Westbrook. You can get all the numbers you want in the world. All the numbers you want. I don't care. You don't win a lot. You just don't. And I mentioned this before, and someone commented, and of course the picture of this commenter had a Boston Celtics logo, so take it for what it is, and I'm not going to give you my time and day because I know what your narrative is, but pretty much that commenter brought up the fact that you say Russell Westbrook hasn't won anything. Well, what has the 76ers won, and what has Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons done? Well, there's a big difference. Now you have a team that's in the first seed. And before you were taking progressive steps with younger players. So I can throw that right back at you. What does the Celtics season say about Jason Tatum not being able to carry his team to a better position? Why did they underachieve if they had Jason Tatum, who is a stud and a franchise changer? Well, because there's growing pains and you need to keep developing as a player. That's what Ben and Joel have done. But you don't see a difference in where those two are in terms of going to make a title run and how they're set up and how they do have a ton of success compared to a guy that doesn't make any sort of noise in playoffs whatsoever, but just averages triple-doubles. You don't see that Russell Westbrook's contract was a problem and he wasn't really attacking the success the way he needed to with that type of money, and he had to be moved and this and that. Come on now. It's pretty damn clear if you understand the sport of basketball where Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons are set up at the moment compared to where Russell Westbrook has been throughout his career. Numbers are great. And I saw someone on TikTok, oh, yeah, I want to see, all your favorite players average a triple-double. Don't tell me Russell Westbrook does. No, what is this Russell Westbrook love? I don't understand. It's clear and obvious. It's laid out for everybody. He gets numbers. Whoop-de-damn-do. Russell Westbrook does nothing. And if you think this Sixers team is set up to do nothing with the future of Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, and you classify what they've done to this point as nothing, as athletes have evolution and grow and take steps, well, then you're just an uneducated sports fan. And I don't know what else to tell you other than that. Bradley Beal is battling through a hamstring injury, so I don't know if that's going to limit him insanely, if that's going to be a difference maker in the series. Who knows, maybe something does come up throughout the first 4 games of the series, if you know what I mean. 5 games at the max, if you know what I mean. But yeah, Bradley Beal, there's playing through some toughness. And a lot of guys are at this point of the season. Many teams, even though you can look at the roster and go, well, Matisse Thybulle's back, so in theory you're playing healthy. Yeah, I mean, everyone's nicked up, though. Everyone's playing through some sort of discomfort. Everyone's playing through some sort of pain. But obviously when there's one that's more notable, like a Bradley Beal hamstring, that is on the table just for dialogue, just for conversation as a whole. I think you can get Tobias Harris with some favorable matchups that he should be able to kind of exploit, and take advantage of and score some buckets and get into rhythm so he can be the closer when need be, because there is going to be a time where we do rely on a Tobias Harris instead of a Joel Embiid. That's going to happen. It's happened all season long, so prepare for it. And if there's favorable matchups for other players, hey, go attack, dude. Go attack a young second-year player. Oh, what's that? Gonzaga? Yeah, it's great. You had success at Gonzaga. You're not going to have success here tonight. You're not going to have success in this building in the Wells Fargo Center. This is South Philadelphia. Have at it. Try. I dare you. But I'll be here all night. I don't see Tobias Harris as a trash talker, though. There's no way. I feel like he's simple. He's thinking about Mozart and thinking about reading a book. Can't wait to sit in his lazy chair, put his feet up, and read a nice novel, a nice fiction novel or medieval times book or something. There's no way that anything I just laid out with what he's going to say to anyone who's matched up against him, there's no way. Tobias Harris is probably just the cool, calm, collected guy. He gives you a fist bump here, and I'm not saying he doesn't play with any emotion, but I can't see him maybe at the foul. Let's say someone gets fouled and they're at the free throw line. Here comes Tobias Harris leaning on both of his knees, looking up and talking smack, or looking up at the guy with a stare or just a unique eyebrow raise as if, dude, you got nothing. You're fried. I'm going to wax that ass. I'm picturing Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or some of these guys out there. For example, Marcus Smart. I don't love Marcus Smart, but he plays with that edge, and he'll know, or he'll let you know. He'll get in your face. He'll nod. He'll move his shoulders a bit. There's no way Tobias Harris would ever do that. There was someone that I really respect. They said something that bothered me a little bit, and it's Kenny, man. Kenny Smith at TNT. What are we doing saying that Ben Simmons can't defend these players? He's Defensive Player of the Year conversation for his. If there's anything that you can rely on with Ben Simmons, it's he's going to bring the heat. All right, he's going to bring everything that he has defensively, and he's going to make it a living hell for you. It's going to be painful for you. You might get some buckets. You might get some points and make some tough layups and get to the rim. It's going to take maximum effort, though, and Ben Simmons is going to win the battle majority of the time. Come on, Kenny Smith, you're a smart basketball guy. I'm a critic of Ben Simmons and the biggest flaw in the history of sports. I'm going that far, damn it. I might go that far by the end of it. If there's one thing I can absolutely look in the mirror and say that Ben Simmons is going to do for you on a nightly basis when the ball tips up here in late spring, dude, come on. Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook, he's not going to be able to do anything on these guys. Bradley Beal had 60, but it wasn't because of him. He barely had any possessions defending on him. No, Ben Simmons has hiccups. Ben Simmons has bad moments. Ben Simmons does get beat sometimes in transition. That doesn't make me happy. And there's times where he gets beat on individual possessions. He's not going to bat 1,000 and get a steal every single time someone's coming down the floor. Elite offense beats elite defense, and there are times in these two players' repertoire where they do bust out the amazing move and they beat you off the dribble and it's solid. Whatever. You just move on after that. But to act as if Ben Simmons can't hold his own jockstrap in this series and this could maybe be the change in the direction of the Sixers season because Ben Simmons is going to have a tough time guarding these fools. What have you watched? Have you not watched the Sixers? Have you not watched this team play all year? Have you not watched the Wizards? At what point now is this Wizards team so deathly, so killer, a team that just annihilates you? I don't want to hear about the last 20 games. That's different. That's not even close to the same. That's not even relatively on the same atmosphere as what you're going to see with this team rolling, with Doc Rivers at the helm, pushing this team forward. And speaking of Doc Rivers, I talked about it in the last show that I had 3 things that I was looking forward to seeing. One was Joel Embiid and the lack, or maybe not the lack thereof, but the heavily double-teamed that was going to happen. That was one thing. Just Joel Embiid's presence and how the other team defends Joel Embiid. Ben Simmons. And I never even mentioned the third because I got sidetracked and went on a whole nother conversation. But it comes down to Doc Rivers and the rotation as well. Now, Doc Rivers was on the Mike Missinelli show, and they kind of went back and forth about Ben Simmons and his inability to shoot, and Doc keeps trying to downplay it as if it's not a big deal, and he tried to say that we focus too much on the negative. He doesn't shoot a basketball in the NBA. Every time I hear that we stress too much about the one thing, we're talking about a basketball player shooting a basketball. Stop acting as if we're talking about something so outrageous and so nitpicky. It's not so nitpicky. It's not so nitpicky. You are a basketball player who doesn't shoot a basketball player. That's not nitpicking. That's not overanalyzing. That's not going to an extreme. That's properly addressing what Ben Simmons is and is not as a professional athlete in this city. It is the proper assessment that we focus on when it comes to Ben. So stop it, Doc Rivers. But it was pretty damn funny because he was talking about how Mikey Miss brought up a 7-footer, an 8-footer, and driving to the lane instead of picking up his dribble like we always see, and he looks to kick it out. Just give us a little 6, 7, 8-foot floater or foot jump shot. And he goes, Mike, that's an in-between shot. They're not valuable. Analytics will tell you, and then he did kind of preface it by saying, I might not fully agree with that all the time, but the analytical world will tell you that we don't want those mid-range jumpers. We don't want that in-between shot. Well, that's very hypocritical, Doc, because Joel Embiid lives and dies in that mid-range game. Joel Embiid establishes what he's going to do and where he's going to attack based off of where. Come on, free throw line extended out, and he'll put his back to the basket. He'll either face up, he'll take the mid-range jumper, he'll maybe he'll dribble into it, shoot it off the bounce. He'll go work down low in the paint, but it'll all start right from that free throw line extended area, and that's where he explodes, and he scores a lot of mid-range buckets. Joel Embiid, that's what he does this year. It's all based off of that. If he's dialed in and drilling his shots, then his repertoire expands because you got to respect that jumper. If his jumper doesn't get going, well, then it's going to be a little bit tougher, and then he likes to bang down low more, which would be a higher percentage shot, of course, hypothetically here. You're getting closer to the basket, and you're eating alive another matchup where you're going to be able to expose those holes for sure. But the Joel Embiid mid-range game is what we've praised all season long. So now all of a sudden with Ben Simmons, that's a shot that we don't value? No, Doc. He just can't do it. Stop trying to maneuver around it. He hit us with this. Did you see the games that happened when Ben Simmons wasn't available? Dude, I can't stand. And I hate to go down this little rabbit hole here of me picking on the head coach, but I have to get this frustration out somehow. This is why I purchased this damn microphone, because this is how I allow myself to sleep at night. I let it all out, and then it's like, okay, there you go, Brodes. We'll attack the next day tomorrow. We'll use that energy tomorrow, but you're good for the night. It's kind of like, you have the fiance, you have a little fun, and then you're finished. And it's like, whew. All right, now let's finish attacking the day. You know what I'm saying? You have a little fun, you do your thing. Whew. All right, now let's enjoy the rest of the day, and let's attack the rest of the day after you experienced a little love. You know what I'm saying? I hope that made sense. It made sense in my brain, though. I hate when someone says, you don't value Ben Simmons until you see this team play without him. That's not true. If your statement is, Ben Simmons is better for this team than when Ben Simmons is not on the floor. No shit. No shit, Doc. No shit that this team is better with Ben Simmons on the floor compared to not being on the floor. If anybody's making that statement, they're idiots. That's not the same as moving on from Ben Simmons and getting another player that can play in his way. I'm not talking about Ben Simmons not being unavailable and then using a bench player like Shake Milton or George Hill to run your offense. When people say like it's time to move on from Ben and Ben's problems are an issue, that's acquiring another elite player that would fill that hole that would then be a totally different team. Not, well, Ben Simmons is hurt, he can't play. And then all the people that are upset with Ben Simmons automatically assume that losing your primary ball handler, your number one point guard, and not replenishing him with anything other than a bench player, oh yeah, the offense is going to be the same, the team's still going to be the same. Come on, that's asinine. So stop it, Doc. Don't try and tell me that Ben Simmons is so good because this team plays differently with and without him during a regular season when you don't bring in anything to actually fill that hole other than a bench piece. Please. Ridiculous. And he just keeps talking about how we don't focus on the positives. Yes, we do, Doc. Yes, we do. We focus on the positives. I just stressed over and over and over again how I think people have said some moronic statements about what this team can't do, Ben Simmons specifically, defensively, against the Washington Wizards' two guys. You know, the more and more I think about it, they're probably just trying to hype up the matchup a bit. It wouldn't be fun if all the announcers went up on the TNT broadcast and alluded to the Sixers just beating them in 4. What fun is that? So to try and add juicy storylines, to try and get a little bit more beefier with the context, maybe they had one individual, in this case being Kenny. Hey, Kenny, just toss it the Wizards' way, or let's say something controversial to spark up the noise. I mean, that's the only thing that would make sense to me. All right, let's go to the Anytime Hotline. We do have some phone calls. We have some comments as well that I want to get to. It's playoff time, though. Big stakes, bigger promotions. It's time to hammer the over and score some cash. DraftKings Sportsbook is giving you a chance to lower the over-under on a featured playoff game. All players who place a bet on the featured basketball game will have a hand in lowering the over-under on the select game. That's right. For every 100 players who bet the over on the select game, the over-under will drop by 1 point. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code Brodes when you sign up to hammer the over. For every 1,500 people that bet on the over in the featured game, the line will decrease by 1 point. Yes, this is your chance to improve the odds of the over hitting. So tell your friends and family this is a team effort. Hammer the over and improve your odds by doubling your money. That's promo code Brodes for a limited time only at DraftKings. Must be 21 or older. Pennsylvania only. Restrictions apply. Max $25 wager, one per customer. Offer ends May 23rd. In partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, let's hear from you and what you had to say.
Hey, bro, this is Andre from Canada calling. Really pumped about the game on Sunday. I'm happy that we're playing the Wizards. The biggest concern is Joel's conditioning. Is he ready to go 38 to 40 minutes a night? One of the things that I don't want to see in the playoffs this year is the drop coverage. That drove me crazy. If there was any reason to fire Brett Brown, it is because he was okay with drop coverage. I want to see Joel Embiid pushing up and putting pressure on ball handlers.
And that's fine. I do think that there's a reason why that happened, and I'll get into that in just a second. But yeah, we have seen Joel Embiid up in that pick and roll game, and he has been more active, which has caused some turnovers. The reason why you do drop coverage, though, it's not bad in theory. It just wasn't the smoothest for this team specifically, but it's not bad in theory. If you play drop coverage, you're forcing the opponent to shoot mid-range jumpers. And as Doc Rivers just mentioned, the analytical world will tell you that that's not the best shot to take. You'd rather them take that area of a really deep 2-point shot compared to a 3-pointer or closer in. So that's the approach to it. And I know that this franchise over the last handful of years really dove insanely, grossly heavy into analytics where it controlled the world. And that was a front office thing, not a head coach thing. That was more of what was. So this organization was a joke in the last handful of seasons. Poorly ran, people making decisions that shouldn't have made decisions, which affected the entire team, and that's why you had the result that was on the court, honestly. It was just one big snowball effect from the top of your front office. That's where everything needed to change, and it did, and now I think you're seeing the results on the court for a reason, on top of your NBA stars that you were waiting for. I guess specifically Joel Embiid definitely improved tremendously to put your team in this position to begin with. Without that, there really is none of this conversation for sure, so that is clearly a big portion of this also. Yeah, I mean, the drop coverage, it does work at times. It's not the worst thing to ever use. It's just you realize that some guys were able to attack off of it and score some buckets coming around that pocket, but it's all an analytically based thing. And, but Doc Rivers and Joel Embiid, they have been utilizing staying up in that pick and roll game, which does cause some issues for the opposing team as they're looking for that perfect pass. They try and jump and maybe throw a pass over top of that layer of defense. It ends up getting picked off by anybody else who's helping, who reads the play, who jumps a pass, and then there you go in transition trying to score on a fast break the other way. So, yeah. And in terms of Joel Embiid's endurance and Joel Embiid when it comes to his conditioning level, I want to bring up the full schedule. There's a lot of days in between these matchups. You have Sunday, you have Wednesday. What is it from there? It's, I think, a few guys I know have the schedule on their Twitter page, have the full schedule. So they play Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. Those games aren't even going to be that relevant after Game 5. So Sunday, then you have a break till Wednesday, then you have a break till Saturday. There's a lot of room, honestly, in this schedule. I was a little surprised to see it play out that way, but I'm not mad. And the reason I bring that up, of course, is pretty damn obvious here. You will have time for these players to rest, and they've had rest this week. They've had rest while all these other teams are playing and battling for their playoff lives. Will that hurt the Sixers? No, I see fear out there that the Wizards have been playing, so they're keeping their bodies in that mode and their mentality in that mode that they might have a little momentum heading into Game 1, and that's why I think people think it's possible that the Wizards win Game 1. I just don't see that honestly happening, and if they do lose one game, I'm not going to lose my head. I'm not going to lose my marbles. I'm not going to go crazy because I think that it's hard. It's hard to sweep a team. There's going to be a loss here and there throughout, but we know that the Sixers team can handle the Wizards. It is pretty damn inevitable. I am not afraid of the Wizards playing a few games and making sure that they solidify their spot so their in-game action has been intensified over the last week. That doesn't really concern me. I think Joel will be ready. I don't have a fear in his conditioning. I don't have a fear in anything else really out of Joel Embiid. I think this is the best Joel Embiid we've ever seen, the most determined Joel Embiid we've ever seen, the most mature Joel Embiid version we've ever seen. We've seen it all this year. So I don't think anything otherwise. We really haven't had a conditioning problem all year long with him. So why all of a sudden am I going to think that? Because of the bone bruise? Because of what happened and there was a little bit of some wonkiness down the stretch playing poor teams and whatnot? I've seen a different Joel Embiid this year. Maybe some of the older seasons have somewhat creeped into the fan base of this year. Remember before he was sitting with stomach pains and this and that? I mean, I don't really know if I even believe that nonsense, too, because at that point, there were, as I mentioned, there were some brutal problems in how the organization was ran, so who knows if we really got the proper information. But there's no way that Joel Embiid would be sitting for the similar reasons he sat last year, or 2 years ago, last year. Why? It was 2 years ago, I guess. Why? Or was it last year? All these damn years are running together. No, it wasn't last year. All these years are running together. It wasn't last year. All these years are running together. All these years are running together. It's a different Joel Embiid.
So, I'm here after you just tweeting that the call Sixers are facing the Wizards in the first round. Obviously, they're going to win in 4 or 5 games. I mean, the Wizards do have 2 amazing players in Russ and Beal, but that does not mean they don't have a center to stop Joel Embiid. Did is Daniel Gafford, Robin Lopez, and HOTLINE. Those guys are going to get in foul trouble in 2 minutes of the game. So they really ain't nobody. I feel Ben Simmons, he can. Sidewell and Simmons could
create real havoc for Beal.
Yeah, no, they definitely can. No, there's no doubt that they can. I also look at the offensive side, though, and think about what you're limited with that offensive side of your game if you have Ben Simmons and Matisse Thybulle out there. Sometimes Matisse gives you those games where he goes 2 for 3, or he'll go, 2 for 2. If it's one of those games where he gets a couple splashes, that would be great. I also think he's going to be afraid to pull the trigger. And I know that this is somewhat irrelevant to this series, but it just shows you my point that I've been trying to kind of drill into everyone's brain throughout this entire season. Joe Harris was shooting 47% from 3, and he's just been cruising it in the regular season over the last handful of seasons. There's a reason why someone like him can't get shots off the same way in the playoffs. There's a reason why he doesn't have the same level of production in the playoffs compared to what he does in these regular season games. Well, I feel what we see out of Matisse sometimes probably won't happen here. What we see out of Furkan Korkmaz probably won't happen out here. I mean, it's just a different level. Now, you're not going up against insane talent yet. You're not going up against scary talent yet. Might be able to get away with it. And if there's a night where Shake doesn't have it, maybe you throw in Tyrese. If Tyrese doesn't have it, maybe you throw in Furkan. If this guy doesn't have it, you can throw in another guy. You do have that early on in the playoff. Early on in the playoffs. I just want to make sure that's very clear. Early on in the playoffs. And we'll see how the rotations kind of line up. If this game does get a little fast-paced because of the Wizards, I do think Tyrese Maxey can play in that area, maybe get a couple minutes of run, just a couple minutes of run, a couple minutes, just a couple, let me be clear, just a handful of greasy minutes. Here's the thing, though. If you're telling me the Wizards are dictating the pace of play and you're running their style because they like to be quick in transition and they like to get behind you and they like to sucker you in this really fast up and down play, well, come on. I mean, you're telling me now that the Wizards are going to be the one that controls pace? That would be an issue. That's an issue right from the jump here.
So we are playing the Wizards in the first round of the NBA playoffs. Yeah, and I know Bradley Beal is a fantastic player, and Russell Westbrook, who tends to be streaky and can get hot from game to game. But really, there's no real reason why the Sixers should not be able to win this series in 5 games. And yes, I am saying 5 games because in 2019, we managed to beat the Nets in 5 games. In 2018, we managed to defeat the Heat in 5 games in the first round of the playoffs for each of those 2. So concerning the fact that we're the first seed, we really shouldn't have any problem with the Wizards, especially concerning the fact that we're 3-0 in the season against them. So
yeah, look, I agree completely with you. I'm on the same page as you. 5 games to demand a sweep or anything like that. Things happen. It's a 7-game series for a reason. You touched on it. Other teams beat the Sixers in years past, although this route is a little bit different, and the Sixers are totally in a different mindset, in a different headspace, and now it's pressure's on because you're the number 1 team compared to in years past. There was some adversity in round 1, some adversity in round 2. You didn't have the same line and the same path that you are looking at now, in theory, of course. But, yeah, I mean, it happens. You can lose a game here. You can maybe just have an off night there, and throughout something occurs where it's not your smoothest game. It's not your best effort, but you're already up 2-0 in the series or you're up 3-0 in the series. It's hard to sweep a team. It's hard to beat any team 4 times in a row, even if it's a worse opponent. Beating the same team 4 times in a row is not the easiest in the world. So I'll say things happen, and we'll go with 5. If you can get 5, then all right, let's move on from there and see what the next opponent is, whether it's the Knicks or whoever could be next. All right, we did have a couple comments on my community page. Just a couple quick fires here before we end the show. Lance Jones says it's going to be a good warm-up for the Sixers defense. We have struggled against smaller guards, especially Beal, who averages 36 against us in the series. The Wizards won't be able to stop Embiid, though. Absolutely. So he believes that the Sixers take it in 5. Yeah, you're going to get the opposing team into foul trouble, and that impacts the entire team. If Furkan gets someone on a pump fake after Joel Embiid has already done so much damage in the quarter, and he ends up going to the free throw line or whatever. You know what I mean? I'm going to say, let's say they would have caught it on the floor. But because the other team's in the bonus, you get to the charity line. It ends up helping more than just Joel Embiid's numbers, making sure he's getting free throws and actually knocking them down because he always does 16 of 18. It's nonstop. 15 of 16. It's ridiculous and absolutely absurd. But, yeah, I mean, it's going to affect the entire team. Evan Hummel. I'm going to say Sixers sweep, but I'll give them a little bit of sanity cushion and be content if it's Sixers in 5. brain. I don't care, to be honest. I don't really care who this team plays because of that play-in situation that's trash. And the Sixers team is so great. Between the Celtics, Wizards, Pacers, and Hornets, I didn't give a damn who was going to challenge my Sixers in the first round. We will take care of business. Sixers in 5. I love it. I love it. I think 5 is somewhat of the consensus, and I am so excited for the launch of NBA playoff basketball. I can smell it. It's literally at my fingertips. So thank you all so much for listening. Before we head out of here, my friends over at DeSimone Jewelers are incredible. I got my fiance's engagement ring there, and my fiance literally fell over. I went on Christmas, fell over again. Birthday, fell over again. Anniversary, fell over again. She's doing all right, though. DeSimone Jewelers are the best in the business. They do not use sale tactics. They show you options, and they educate their customers, and they treat you like family. They customize and manufacture every ring, start to finish, on location. So because of that, they beat all competitors' prices. I've sent family members there, friends there. I get the same reaction. Brodes, you're a genius. Thank you very much. Thank you for showing me this place. You'll know exactly what I mean when you go in there and you tell them that Brodes sent you. Thank you all so much, and I will see you next time.